when this first started happening and I had those 2 kids covered in eczema, we went to the pediatrician because that's what you do when you have sick kids, right? And
Right.
he said, here are 2 prescriptions for 2 different steroids. Put both on both. Wear gloves yourself because these are admittedly very caustic, materials. And mind you, like I'm holding my newborn with one arm
Gosh.
and holding the hand of my 2-year-old in the other. Okay. And he's saying these are really, scary chemicals, but go ahead and slather them double time
Gosh.
on both and throw in some bleach into their bath. And I said, oh, and they have an older 4-year-old sister. He's like, no problem. Just, fine.
Everything is connected, and I'm here to tell you how. I'm Dr. Laura Hanson with Connect My Brain. This podcast is for moms who are concerned about their child's development. The brain impacts our mind, body, and overall health. I explain how your brain is wired, what happens when it's out of balance, and how early childhood development not only impacts your child, but can affect you as an adult years later. Want to know how to improve your life? Join me and learn about your amazing brain and what it can do for you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Connect My Child's Brain. And again, I'm so excited. I have another guest, and I am so excited to have her. We really know how to have a conversation. So I know you're really going to enjoy this. This is Andra McHugh. And I say it right?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. And she does work with kids and probably adults too, I would imagine, that suffer from eczema. And, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast. We're so excited to have you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And this is such an important topic because I've really seen some unbelievable cases of eczema and what it means for the child, the parent, and what you have to do to try to get around that. And you look at these kids and they're in so much pain. So I thought we would, first of all, you give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then let's dive in to why does this happen? What can you do about it? And how can you prevent it? So, Andra, take it away.
Well, thank you. Yeah, like you said, my name's Andra McHugh. I host the Eczema Kids Podcast, which you were just on. It's so much fun. And I have been helping families reverse eczema naturally for 5 years. And before that time, I was a dental professional and helping dentists, implement OSHA protocols and, make sure that their practice isn't shut down. And
Oh, wow.
that, and working in a dental office every day, it's a really deleterious career. It's a lot of radiation, it's a lot of chemicals, and even ergonomically, it's really rough on your body. But the exposures that you take in from that sort of line of work, I think in large part put me into the boat, which I then found myself in, which about almost 7 years ago now, I had 2 kids with severe eczema. My 3rd kid just came out of the chute with eczema, and it was nothing that we had ever dealt with before, that we had had any personal history with, myself or my husband. And with my newborn baby and my 2-year-old at the time, they just both were getting worse and worse and worse by the day. It just started with little spots with both of them, and it just grew and grew and grew until their whole bodies were bleeding and itching and scratching, and nobody was sleeping. And our lives were miserable. I mean, the suffering, if like this, there's worse things out there. There's childhood cancer and there's way worse things. But if you are in this boat, and the suffering is so great, and you just look in your child's eyes and there's just misery, and especially the baby is like, wow. And, we shorted up in really short order, but I'm just still neurologically, I'm dealing with the effects of this, having my daughter experience these types of things while she was a baby. She skipped crawling because her legs were so uncomfortable. And now as a 1st grader, right, there's just has to have been extra attention paid for her to learn to read. Like we're just still today just experiencing the effects of this. And so I just really feel for people that are in this boat, and I do everything I can to truncate this suffering time, and so that they can turn it around, and so that their kids can live these happy, healthy, vibrant lives that they were put here to live. So that's what I.
Well, do you feel like the exposures that you went through had a part in your children having eczema?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I mean, like, I definitely think that played a big part in it. And I also, it's, I guess, as you mentioned, like what causes this, it's a lack of diversity of the microbiome. It's cesarean births. It's, which causes a lack of diversity of in the microbiome. It's the antibiotics. It's the lackluster soil that is now, what we have to grow food in. I mean, there's so many reasons, the pollutants and the microplastics and all the things. And, what I had to accept as a parent, because I used to ask all the time, why me, not, like just, why is this happening? And that's an important question when you're going through it and there's something that you can do about it. Like if there is a mold issue in your home, like you need to get to the bottom of this. If you are not filtering your water, like you need to remedy those things. So like, and there's so many things that you can do by way of EMFs and all, do everything that you possibly can in your environment to making it the healthiest place that your children can grow up in, because they're also just extra susceptible to all environmental influences. Not to mention it's like hurting your health as well, but they really live the effects of a deleterious home environment or school environment. There's just so many things that you could do. So aside from that, like once you've done all of that work and you're still experiencing symptoms, sometimes you need to let go of the why, right? Because myself included, and all of my clients have gone through this in a way. It's just you blame yourself. It's just like, oh man, had I done this different or not done this and not have done this exposure. I mean, they inherit our exposures, like even the things during your childhood. I had so many rounds of antibiotics as a child, and, ate on plastic plates, microwaved food and Lunchables and all the things, like my entire childhood. And so, I guarantee that's a part of it too. When you make a copy of a copy, right? The copy is not sharp. And so all of that comes into play. And that's why I just say, like, when you're there, that part of the why, it's like, okay, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, do not torture yourself over that. It doesn't do any good, and we need to move forward. So, but there's a lot of whys, and so that's okay. And then there's just the good news, though. The silver lining is that there's so much you can do. And I would say that we're even the lucky ones if this is happening in your home and your children are young, especially, and you talk a lot about this. And I've shared what you've shared on my podcast so many times. I was actually just talking about this morning, that, especially before that 8-year-old mark, if you undergo this work and, make your living environment into a healthy, happy place, you clean up the diet, you get those supplements in place to address those nutritional deficiencies, the dysbiosis. Oh my goodness. I mean, that completely changes the trajectory of their entire life. I mean, they will spend way less time in doctor's offices throughout their entire life. They will spend so much less money throughout their entire life learning to label, read, and all these things as their children learning to cook and just cut broccoli. Like all of those things are lifelong skills. Like it's just so fresh. I have to share. I was just talking to a client, and she was on my podcast because her 7-year-old daughter is now free and clear of eczema. And, she was riddled full body eczema, and it was suffering. And she tells people now, I don't have eczema anymore. This is no longer a thing for me. I don't itch anymore. And I was like, wow, how wonderful for you that you got it done before this 8-year-old mark. And that she's telling herself, like, I'm healthy, I'm whole, I'm healed. Like, not that that I'm itchy or that I'm different or anything like that. Not messages of sickness, just messages of health. And it's such a gift. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. I love you inherit the environment. I love that line. That was really good. And then now she has messages of, I'm healthy. I would just say anybody out there listening that's planning to have a baby, to me, this is the one message I really try to get out there. I think we are all under the understanding now that our environments are just not good. And we need to take more precaution. But if you're going to manufacture a life, man, take the time to get some lab work done and find out what's going on in there, because you're passing on the environment. That was really good. So we've got these kids that are just covered top to bottom. And parents are trying, like, I'm going to take gluten out, I'm going to take dairy out. What would be your guidance on the food part and beginning to try to change your child's gut environment?
Yeah. Well, that's where we start, is in the kitchen, because it matters. And I mean, what monumental changes you can make. That's where their energy comes from. That's where, their bones are built from. That's where their mitochondrial energy comes from. It's just from the food that you feed them, right? And in a lot of cases, it's not real food, and you could just make the biggest difference in the world by, yes, omitting, while you're in this healing phase, the known inflammatory foods, the gluten and the dairy and excess sugar. Like, still, you could have sugar, but just, and then obviously the non-food things like food dyes. I know that your audience is privy to all of these things. So, right, we take those out for a time being. I recommend with kids 90 days. 90 days, they can turn this around. And, just if you can give their gut lining a chance to heal, repair, and regenerate, which it literally does, and especially in childhood, then my goodness, like, what a leg up. But if you can do that, real whole foods, gluten-free grains are fine, all meats, all vegetables, all fruits. Great, 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 great. The choices are plenty. I mean, there's like 20,000 plant species. There's so many things that you can eat. I really like to focus on what you can do. And you can make desserts, and you can have honey and even sugar, and you can have maple syrup and all the things. I mean, and especially in this day and age, there's so many just substitutions. You can have most things, right? It's just not like literal poison. I tell my kids, like,
Well, my favorite recommendation is fat bombs, and they have 3 and 4 ingredients. The recipes are all over the internet. You can make it. I love your idea of, let's get into the kitchen. I mean, you can actually turn that kitchen experience into a math session. Okay, let's get out the measuring cups, and this is what a quarter cup looks like. I think just even ideas like that would make it easier for kids to learn fractions,
Yes.
If you made it visual for them, tactile, right? So I like that too. I'll tell parents, keep bacon on hand, sugar-free bacon. Everything is now readily available, and cook it up by a couple of packages and snack on a piece of bacon. That's good fat, and it doesn't have sugar in it if you get the sugar-free one. Make meatballs and, put them in the refrigerator, and ants on a picnic with celery and nut butter and raisins. And there are so many things. But I think, and maybe I like having these conversations with other professionals, because I'm sure you go through this as well. I know I do, that the food is the hardest part for families, because there is so many things that you can just grab and go in a package. And I like other professionals almost like backing me up on why I'm not the only one saying this. We've got to be back to the real food, and we got to be okay cooking, and we can't do everything so quick. I like also recommending you have a meal prep day and you make it a family event. So what do you tell parents? Well, first of all, do you experience parents feeling like, I'm never going to be able to get my kid not to eat this stuff? Do you experience that?
Yeah. And I mean, one, I have 4 children. Okay. They're 11, 9, and 6, and 4 now.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And so
I love it.
We're in it, and they do the dance and the swim, and I work, and we homeschool. Like, I've never asked any of my clients to do something that I haven't done. And, like I used to, like the meal prep day, I used to think about that. And, even when they're babies, it's like, that sounds impossible. I've always worked, like I never even have like 1 hour or even, like just not in the middle of the night. Like that doesn't exist for me, but that's okay. Because honestly, especially in the case of eczema, the histamine aggregates, for every day that it's in the fridge. So that's not even
Oh,
within your best interest.
yes.
So
Oh,
that
say
actually
that
gave me
again. Say that
solace.
again. That's very good. Say
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
again.
Yeah, like you wouldn't so every day that your leftovers are in the fridge, like we love leftovers, leftovers are great, but eat them within 24 hours because every day that they are in the fridge, the histamine level aggregates, it increases every single day. And especially meat products is a big deal, but also, just the nutrition goes down. So,
All right. So
the
now
whole
define histamine for the audience, just in case they don't know that word.
Well, histamine is a compound. So there's like natural food chemicals like nitrates, and histamine's one of them. It's just they're ubiquitous and they're available, and you should be able to tolerate them. But there are certain food practices and certain foods that have higher levels of histamine, like processed meats, like dried fruits, things like this, that if you are experiencing eczema, you are having a hard time breaking down those food chemicals, and it's causing an immune assault instead. And then that you're seeing a reaction go downstream into it. Because like eczema is an internal issue, right? It's a gut lining issue. It's a lymphatic issue. It's a digestive issue. There's so many things going on, unfortunately. And then it shows up on the skin, and we call it like the itch that rashes. So that itch component of eczema and the red component of eczema is just a really histamine dependent type of condition. And when we first lower the histamine load by just doing normal things like not eating processed meats and not eating leftovers like 6 days after it's been made. And we're eating real whole fresh foods, and we're increasing in a lot of cases, like quercetin is a natural antihistamine. That's what Benadryl is. It's an antihistamine. It's helping kids break down histamine. But in the case of Benadryl, it also comes with, consequences like you're stunting your growth. And I've certainly given my kids, Benadryl a handful of times. Like you can only not sleep for so long. And I 100% understand that. And I understand that spring is a really high load season. But if that's where you are, quercetin is a really good, also natural compound. It's naturally found in like onions and grapes. That's an incredible antihistamine that's really available everywhere in supplement form. So there's things you can do. You can also take DAO, diamine oxidase. It's just help you break down the histamine depending on how severe your case is. But the point is, it's just something to be aware of. And, salicylates fall in that same category, oxalates. And this is where people get in their head and it gets really complicated and it feels scary. And then mealtime feels intense and scary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want it to feel the opposite. I just honestly, no, if you can just do real whole foods, if you really want to up level, make them seasonal, just so it has that extra
Yes. Oh,
nutrition.
sure. Yeah.
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 Then, then you're aligning with circadian rhythms. You're just helping the body get back to neutral. Like when you're this far off into dis-ease, the body needs extra supports to get back to neutral. So seasonal eating helps a lot.
See,
with that.
and I love that. Let's expand on that one. So another word too, when you're thinking about histamines, is just inflammation, right?
Mhm.
So that's probably a more common word is inflammation. So there's lots of inflammation going on, and that's a big problem. But I love the point you just made about seasonal food and how that helps your circadian rhythm. So let's define that. I'll add some, you add some. So I think that seasonal part is really important. I get my fruits and vegetables from a local farm.
Great.
So it's what's growing right now. And where are you in the world?
I'm in Denver.
Okay, you're in Denver. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So one of the things that happens in the grocery store, like if you go into Whole Foods, there's all these little signs by the fruits and vegetables, right?
Mhm.
the majority of them are from California. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're bringing in from California, and we want them to look really good in that little basket.
Yeah.
So that means that they're picked before they're ripe, which means they're not nutritionally dense, and they've been on a truck coming over here.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is we want to get everything all the time. So even if something isn't like butternut squash is a fall vegetable, and we want to get it in the peak of spring. So is that what you mean by these ideas of seasonal, right?
I do.
Okay, now connect the dot to circadian rhythm. Explain what that is, and then why does that support people getting into that proper rhythm?
Yeah. I do want to tell you, I mean, we go to the regular grocery store. Like I shop at Sprouts and Costco, okay, like to make it through, and it's totally okay. But the foods that are organic, they will be seasonal foods. Like you can't get the non-organic, or you can always get non-organic kind of everything, but you can only get like the organic ones when it is relatively seasonal. And I'm just saying that is good enough. That is pretty good. But if you start to align with this way of eating, which is how nature intended, you will feel better. Your whole family will feel better because we are circadian beings. We are very affected. I mean, just as we were speaking of our internal environment, obviously we're very affected by that, but we are affected by what is going on outside of our door. And if it is summer and it is hot and the days are longer, our bodies naturally need, that's when everything is in season. It's a naturally high carb season, right? And so this doesn't mean hot dog buns, right? It means there's more fruits and vegetables available, right? And so your body needs the extra energy naturally to get through the whole day, the extended day. Winter is a insulating season. It's the higher protein, higher fat season. That's when, you can eat more like red meat and you can eat those thicker stews, and you need to insulate your body from the cold. Whereas spring, then when spring comes around, the harvest is very austere. It's a harder season to feed kids if you're really working this. It's more vegetarian based, ideally more beans, things like that. Your body needs to shed that mucosal lining in time for summer. So you need to eat like a kind of clearer, cleaner diet during that time.
Oh, I love this. This is great.
To then, so set yourself up for summer, because if you don't shed that mucosal lining, if you don't, kind of cleanse your system in a way during the springtime, and this is when all like religious fasts go on, right? Because in observance of these circadian rhythms, right? Then by summer, if you don't do those things, then you're going to heat up all of that mucus. It's going to harden, and you just go down the cycle. And then winter is going to be harder for you. You're going to have more sickness come that time. And then in the spring, you're going to be more mucusy as well. It's just,
wow, that is good stuff.
Yeah. I know. What is so exciting is just as mere mortal parents, this is the thing that you have control over. It's like, it maybe feels intense initially, but it's liberating. I found it liberating. It's like, wow, everything is available to us. Like it is so medicinal. The ginger and the turmeric that's available in the spring, that's exactly the time that your body really needs those things. And the broccoli and the greens and the fruits that are available in the summer, that's exactly when your body needs them to cool it down. That's when you eat the watermelon and the cilantro. You need to cool your body down, and then the same thing for every season. It's a miracle, actually. It's really, really.
I mean, I love the way that you describe that. That is fantastic. I would just connect a few more dots so people really know. Circadian rhythm is also like about the light and the dark. So we're talking about the fuel that you need to run your body. But like when the sun's going down, we're supposed to go to sleep. When the sun's coming up, we're supposed to get up. And then during the night, there's different times that different parts of your body are really being rejuvenated, and you need that fuel to make that proper transition. And so if you're having any trouble sleeping, here's a perfect approach to look at how you're eating and how that might be impacting your sleep, which is how you heal. Wow, that was really good. Okay. So the last point that I want to kind of focus on outside. Now, do you work with people telehealth? Do you work with people? Oh, wonderful. Okay. Because it's all telehealth. That's great. I just think that this is a very powerful resource for us because there are so many kids that go through this. And tell me if this still goes on. I had one parent say this to me. This was quite a while ago, but their child was covered in eczema. And the pediatrician actually told them to rinse them off with diluted bleach. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, that was when this first started happening and I had those two kids covered in eczema, we went to the pediatrician because that's what you do when you have sick kids, right? And
Right.
he said, here are 2 prescriptions for 2 different steroids. Put both on both. Wear gloves yourself because these are admittedly very caustic, materials. And mind you, like I'm holding my newborn with one arm and holding the hand of material with the other. Okay. And he's saying these are really, scary chemicals, but go ahead and slather them double time on both and throw in some bleach into their bath. And I said, oh, and they have an older 4-year-old sister. He's like, no problem. Just, fine. And because it kills staph, bleach is antimicrobial, like to the nth degree, right? So
Yeah.
that's why they say that. And if you have eczema, yes, you're going to have an increased staph count. That's the skin has another microbiome. And yes, it's obviously out of balance and staph is winning the war in that case. And it's not a hygiene issue. It just is. And you need to understand that. But there are natural ways to go about that. And the symptom management piece is really integral as far as eczema goes, right? Because these kids are miserable. So that's a big step. That's step 2. We do herbal oils. I started making herbal oils because the lipophilic properties of oil, so fat likes fat. And so when you infuse oils in this way, this slow method, the antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, skin regenerative properties of these herbs actually go into the tissue. So we put the oil on, let it sit, then take an Epsom salt bath, which is it's a sincere therapy, right? We're remineralizing, we're detoxifying, and you have to bathe your kids anyway. So we do that. And, sometimes we add in a little baking soda that helps with the pH, and you don't want to do that too often because you'll dry them out. And then if you've gone up the ladder, then you can also add in some eczema safe essential oils like frankincense or sandalwood, something like that, and just also give their nervous system a boost. But the bath itself will help them as well. So you do that. And then you follow that up with, we have a comfort spray. It's got some Chinese herbs in there that deal with staph and yeast and also calm the itch and help prevent infection, but they are natural and bioavailable and nothing bad will happen to you, days, weeks, years from now after using them. And then we seal that up with the most viscous moisturizer that you can possibly imagine. It's tallow and castor oil, just because these kids need moisture in the most desperate way. Because, when you have eczema, your skin barrier is too thin.
Yeah.
And so, it's clearly not doing its job. So we need to boost it in that way. And then if needed, you can also incorporate wet wraps just to get you through the nights and things like that. But that symptom management piece is a big part of it, just while you're in that boat when you're healing, and it's so worth it. And I guess just like the diet stuff that you're already feeding your kid, multiple times a day, and to actually just cut up a cucumber versus grab some crackers out of the cabinet, it's just not that big of a difference. And I would say that the same applies. Like just slathering some oil on them, that is also really helping their nervous system. That's just calming them down. It can actually be a really lovely ritual, and giving them a bath. And even when you have to bathe them every night anyway, it's just not that much extra. And then it pays dividends that immediately that night you can get more rest and, prepare for the day. So,
Wow. And did you make these oils? This is something you create. Oh, I'm so proud of you. This is
oh,
so
thank you.
great.
I
I am
used to
so
teach my initial clients how to do it all, because I started this and I just did coaching. That was not my intention to start a skincare brand. And I was showing my clients how to do all this. And they're like, this takes weeks and it's really hard. And there's so many ingredients. She's like, can you just make it? Can I buy it? I was like, yeah, I
yeah,
can.
that good for you. That's wonderful. So if I'm hearing correctly, you've got a protocol to ease the discomfort, create the balance, kill the staph, re-moisturize the body. But the heart of it is you got to work on the gut. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
ultimately, there's a dysbiosis happening. So, right, these things, what you fuel your body with, what you put on the outside, everything that you're putting on your skin, you're digesting just the same as anything that
Yeah.
you're eating, right? It's just
Yeah.
circulating
Yeah.
throughout your body, and your liver has to detoxify from it. So we're just doing everything that we can to unburden the liver, to open up those detoxification channels, the proper ones, right? Because right now, the toxins, like the good thing is they're coming out, but they're coming out through the skin. Like that's not what we want to have happen. So it's all works together. And then putting the environment back together, and then these kids are in need of supplements because, like we mentioned earlier, that they it's just too far. It's too far for diet and symptom management alone to get them back to baseline. So we need to
Sure.
put in some extra nutritional supports to
Yeah.
help them get back.
Wow. This was just fantastic. So if you had to, let's say, we're speaking to someone that's thinking about having a baby, what would be your number one recommendation to them? And then follow it up. How do we get in touch with you? Because I think that's great that you're available remotely, that this is something that somebody could really get some one-on support with. So what's the number one thing you would say to a young mother or a young woman thinking about having a baby? And then how do we get in touch with you?
I would say, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, like you got to get yourself right. You could do a GI map. That would be very enlightening. And you need to do a detox in some capacity, because no matter what, things have accumulated, just every year that we're here, things happen and they just accumulate inside our body. And the best thing that you can do for your future health and for your child's future health is to get, the microplastics out, to get those heavy metals out, and, get any traces of mold out of your body. And it doesn't have to be these crazy, water fasts or anything like that.
Right.
It can be really gentle while you're still
Yeah.
doing calories. A Kitchery cleanse would be a really amazing thing for you to do, because once you're pregnant and nursing, you can't do
You
any
can't do it.
sort of
Right.
detox practices. So the very best thing you could do was something like that. So, I mean, if you didn't even want to do any testing, and you could just eat Kitchery for a week, which is like rice and split yellow mung beans with some spices, and, take vitamin D and omegas. And I would say that would give you a huge leg up and a much bigger chance of birthing a healthy, happy child.
Well, I am so grateful that you have been on here. Okay. So how do they find you?
You can find me anywhere you listen to podcasts, at the Eczema Kids Podcast, and all the skincare and the program that we spoke to is all at eczemakids.com.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much for being on my podcast. I've so enjoyed getting to know you. You have such a great personality, and I love your smile. It's easy to be with you. You know that? Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And we've got some events coming up. If you'll bear with me, I want to start giving the dates out, because all I ever say is June. But in June, we are going to offer 2 free little workshops over at the office. And one on the first weekend, see, here I go again. Oh, I could just look at a calendar. I don't have to go too far. So June 6th is a Saturday from 12 to 1. Parents are invited to the office. We're going to talk about primitive reflexes. And this is just an hour. There's no cost. I really want to give you some background about primitive reflexes. There's a lot of people that talk about them. There's a lot of people that offer suggestions. And I'd love to just give you a one-on-one so you could get a deeper dive into understanding them. And then the last Saturday of June, the 27th, we are offering a babysitting club course, no charge, 1 hour. And any young person that, or, you could be any age, that you want to work with a child that has a special need, we're going to give you some strategies about how to help them. My goal is to let parents have a date night. And so many parents go, I don't know who to leave my kid with. So we thought, hey, let's put it out there and see if we can help. So just go to connectmybrain.com, go over to the resource tab, and under events, you can register for either one of those or both. So we'd love to have you by the office, and we hope that you will attend. Make sure if you find that this podcast is speaking to somebody you know, that you share it with them. Of course, subscribe and know that we're trying to build a community where we can make sure we put some great resources into your hands. We will put all of her information in the show notes. I'm going to also put you in as a trusted resource. So we will put a direct link to your website on our website so that parents can have a quick access, because this is a very common issue and parents need other ways besides bleach water to help their kids.
Please.
So
don't use
thank
bleach.
you. Thanks again. Last comment would you like to share with the audience before we wrap it up?
Oh, that the power really is in your hands, no matter who you work with, that you really can reverse this. And whether it's you yourself or a child that's struggling. I mean, nobody was sent here to live in itchy, scratchy skin, and there 100% is a way out.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. I hope today's lesson will help you or someone you love. Do you have a question or just really want to talk to somebody about brains? Connect with me over on Facebook or Instagram at Connect My Brain. Looking to understand and optimize your particular brain? Check out connectmybrain.com for course information and resources. See you next class.